My parents think this boat is a symbol of their wealth and success. They don't know it's actually a one-way ticket to federal prison. That thought kept running through my head as I pulled into the lake house driveway that 4th of July weekend. Gravel crunched under my tires. I was still in my work clothes, navy slacks, and a silk blouse wrinkled from 12 hours at the advertising agency. My body ached in that specific way that comes from skipping lunch and surviving on coffee alone. I should have gone home first. Changed. Prepared myself mentally. But Dr. Thorne's secretary had called 3 hours earlier asking about the wire transfer, and I needed to know it went through. My brother Merrick's life-saving procedure was scheduled for the following week, $215,000. Every penny of my retirement accounts liquidated overnight because insurance had denied the claim. Again, as I walked toward the dock, golden hour light caught on the water. The party was already in full swing. 100 guests in designer casual wear, champagne flutes catching the sun, laughter floating across the perfectly manicured lawn. Fireworks were stacked near the boathouse for tonight's show. Everything about this scene screamed money. And there they were. Conrad and Lenora, my father and stepmother, standing on the dock in matching white linen. My father held a champagne bottle aloft like a trophy. My stepmother's smile was wide and practiced the kind she reserves for audiences. Between them sat the reason for today's celebration. A gleaming cobalt speedboat. $180,000 of fiberglass and chrome. The crowd applauded as Conrad smashed the bottle against the hull. Champagne exploded in a golden spray. "We christen thee the Merrick Clay." Lenora's voice carried across the water, delighted with her own cleverness. My stomach dropped. They'd named the boat after my dying brother. I scanned the crowd until I found him. Merrick stood near the buffet table, one hand gripping a drink, the other trembling slightly at his side. He was 25 but looked younger in that light, boyish and uncertain. His eyes found mine for a split second before darting away. He knew. I pushed through the crowd, my heels sinking into grass. Someone tried to hand me champagne. I waved them off. Conrad saw me coming, and his expression shifted celebration, cracking into something guarded. "Elise!" His voice was too loud, too jovial. "You made it after all. We weren't sure you'd get away from that office of yours. Did Dr. Thorne receive the wire transfer?" I kept my voice low, aware of the guests milling nearby. "The procedure is in 7 days. They need to confirm payment by tomorrow morning." Conrad's face did something complicated. His smile stayed fixed but his eyes went flat. "Let's not discuss business at a party. Sweetheart. It's not business. It's Merrick's treatment. Elise!" Lenora appeared at Conrad's elbow, champagne glass dangling from manicured fingers. Her smile hadn't wavered. "You look exhausted, darling. When was the last time you slept?" "The wire transfer," I repeated, my voice harder now. $215,000. "Did you send it?" Lenora laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was bright and careless, like I'd just told a joke. "Oh, that." She waved her free hand dismissively. "We decided not to pursue that particular treatment." The world tilted. "You decided?" My voice came out, strangled. "That money was in a medical trust. For Merrick's care. And we used it for Merrick's care," Lenora said smoothly, gesturing toward the boat with her champagne flute. "Fresh air and sunshine are better therapy than some risky experimental procedure. The boy needs normal experiences, not needles and hospital beds." Conrad nodded along like she was making perfect sense. "Dr. Thorne admitted himself the success rate isn't guaranteed. We're not throwing good money after bad." "That money wasn't yours to throw anywhere." My hands were shaking now. I clenched them into fists. I liquidated my retirement accounts. Every penny I had saved. That was supposed to give Merrick a chance at stopping the disease progression. "The disease is genetic, Elise," Lenora said, her tone shifting to something patronizing. No amount of money will fix his DNA. But a boat? A boat gives him joy. Memories. A normal summer with his family. I turned away from them, searching for Merrick again. He was still by the buffet table, but he was watching us now. Our eyes met across 30 feet of manicured lawn and expensive guests. I waited for the outrage. The confusion. Some sign that he was as horrified as I was. Instead, his gaze dropped to his shoes. His shoulders hunched forward. The tremor in his hand got worse. I walked toward him on legs that didn't feel like mine. The crowd parted around me. By the time I reached him, I already knew what he was going to say. Don't. His voice was barely a whisper. Don't make a scene, Elise. Please. I just want a normal summer. The words landed like a physical blow. You knew, I said. It wasn't a question. They told you, and you said yes. The procedure isn't even FDA approved. Mom's right about the success rates. He still wouldn't look at me. And I'll have the boat for years. We can take it out on the lake, have fun, actually enjoy life. Instead of what? Instead of fighting for your mobility? Your future? Instead of turning my whole existence into a medical emergency? His voice cracked. Several guests turned to look. He lowered it again immediately. I'm so tired, Elise. I just want to be normal. Just for one summer. Something inside me broke clean in half. 7 years ago, I sat in a hospital room that smelled like disinfectant and death. Machines beeped steadily in the background. My mother's hand was cold in mine. Her breathing labored. She made me promise. Take care of the boys. Make sure they're okay. 9 months ago, Merrick called me crying. The diagnosis was progressive and aggressive. Insurance wouldn't cover the experimental treatment. I didn't hesitate. I emptied everything. Deleted my future in a single wire transfer. Because that's what you do for family. And he chose a boat. My hands found the champagne tray before I consciously decided to move. Crystal flutes caught the late afternoon sun, throwing rainbow prisms across the deck. I watched my own hands sweep across the tray in one violent arc. Glass exploded, champagne sprayed. The shattering sound cut through every conversation, every laugh, every performance of wealth and happiness. Silence crashed down like a guillotine blade. 100 pairs of eyes turned toward me. Lenora's mouth formed a perfect O of shock. Conrad's face flooded red. Merrick just stood there, trembling, looking anywhere but at me. I walked. Through the frozen crowd. Past the judging stares. Across grass that cost more to maintain than most people's mortgages. Conrad's voice followed me. Elise, you're being dramatic. Come back here. I kept walking. Lenora's stage whisper carried perfectly in the silence. The stress has finally broken her. I knew this would happen. I reached my car, hands shaking so badly I could barely grip my keys. The engine turned over. I pulled away from the lake house, hyperventilating but not looking back. In the rearview mirror, I watched Conrad and Lenora fold into each other, comforting embraces, concerned whispers to nearby guests. Already reframing this. Already making me the villain. The boat gleamed on the dock behind them, christened with stolen hope. The next morning, I sat in Kaylin Pierce's office at 7 a.m. I hadn't slept. My coffee sat untouched on the glass conference table between us, growing cold while her pen moved across legal pads with surgical precision. Kaylin's reputation had preceded our introduction. Forensic accountant turned attorney. She'd destroyed more fraudulent estates than the IRS. People called her ruthless. I was counting on it. Say that last part again, she said. Her voice flat and clinical. The lake house is in my name. I co-signed when Conrad's credit tanked 3 years ago. He promised to refinance within 6 months. I dug through my purse for the folder I'd grabbed before leaving my apartment at 5:30. He never did. Kaylin took the documents without looking at me. Supplemental credit cards? 2. Both on my primary account. Conrad uses them for the country club. Lenora for boutique shopping in Greenwich. Car leases. Merrick's SUV. Luxury package. I'm the primary on that too. The words tasted like ash. He needed reliable transportation after the diagnosis. I thought I was helping. Kaylin's pen stopped moving. She looked up for the first time since I sat down. You understand what I'm proposing here. This isn't cutting them off. This is scorched earth. Good, I said. She almost smiled. By 8:30, every supplemental card was canceled. By 9, I'd authorized stopping mortgage payments on the lake house effective immediately. By 9:15, the luxury SUV lease termination was filed. Kaylin documented each action in triplicate. Her handwriting precise as a scalpel. They'll retaliate, she said. Let them try. I left her office feeling lighter than I had in years. The morning air tasted different. Cleaner. The feeling lasted exactly 4 hours. The delivery arrived at my advertising agency just after lunch. 36 white roses crowded the front desk like a funeral arrangement. Enormous, obscene, the kind of display meant to be seen by everyone on the floor. My co-workers had already started gathering, phones out, probably posting to social media. The card sat propped against the vase in a small cream envelope. I recognized Lenora's handwriting before I opened it. We forgive your outburst, we know you're stressed, love always, Mom and Dad. My hands didn't shake this time. They were steady as I lifted the entire arrangement, vase and all. Water sloshed. Rose petals scattered across industrial carpet. I carried it through the bullpen, past cubicles, straight to the back exit. The dumpster behind the building reeked of yesterday's catering. I dumped the whole thing in. Glass shattered. White petals mixed with coffee grounds and discarded lunch containers. When I turned around, Janet from accounting was standing in the doorway. She'd worked here longer than anyone. Her expression was knowing. Not the first time? I asked. Not even close, honey, she said, holding the door open for me. Good for you. That afternoon, Kaylin called again. We need to talk about your insurance claims. Different conference room. Smaller? More private. She spread printouts across the table like crime scene photos. I pulled your financial history for asset protection purposes. Standard procedure. Her finger tapped a highlighted section. These charges. Intensive psychotherapy. 2 years of weekly sessions. The provider name meant nothing to me. Apex Neurotherapy Solutions. I've never been to therapy, I said. I know. Kaylin pulled up another document. The billing address is a P.O. box registered to your parents' zip code, near the lake house. The room temperature dropped 10 degrees. Someone's been using your insurance. Filing false claims. Collecting reimbursements. She met my eyes. This is federal fraud, Elise. Wire fraud. Identity theft. We're not talking about family drama anymore. How much? $40,000, maybe more. I'm still tracing the accounts. I should have felt shocked. Violated. Instead, I felt something close to relief. They weren't just toxic. They were criminals. This wasn't a moral gray area anymore. It was black and white evidence and law. What do we do? I asked. Kaylin leaned back in her chair. Her expression shifted into something predatory. We don't confront them. Not yet. She tapped the documents. I want to hire a private investigator. Trace the billing source. Document everything. Build an airtight case before they know we're looking. Why wait? Because right now they think they're winning. They think the flower stunt worked. That you're backing down. Let them think that. Her smile was razor sharp. Let them get comfortable while we build the trap. When we move, it'll be decisive, total. They won't see it coming until it's too late. I thought about Merrick screaming about his date when the SUV got repossessed. Conrad's inevitable tantrum when the mortgage payment bounced. Lenora's perfectly styled panic when her credit cards declined at the boutique. How long? 2 weeks, maybe 3. The investigator I use is thorough. She slid a business card across the table. Marcus Webb, former FBI. He'll be in touch within 48 hours. I left her office as the sun set over Manhattan. The city lights blinked on one by one. Somewhere across the state, my parents were probably toasting their victory with champagne, celebrating their clever daughter's emotional breakdown, planning their next manipulation. They had no idea I'd stopped playing defense. I'd gone on offense. It took 48 hours for Conrad to show up at my office. The agency occupied the 14th floor of a glass tower in Midtown. Every wall was transparent. Every conversation visible. Right now, it meant 70 people could watch my father lose his mind in the lobby. Elder abuse! Conrad's face was purple, veins standing out on his forehead. My own daughter is committing elder abuse. The security guard had one hand raised, trying to calm him. The receptionist's fingers hovered over her phone, uncertain whether to call the police. She's stolen our money. Conrad whirled toward me, finger jabbing the air. Cut off her dying brother. Left him to rot while she lives in luxury. I stopped 3 feet away. Didn't cross my arms. Didn't raise my voice. Just stood there with my hands loose at my sides, watching him perform. We gave her everything, he continued, playing to the growing audience. Sacrificed for her education, her career, and this is how she repays us? Abandoning family when we need her most? Behind me, I heard whispers. Speculation. The exact reaction he wanted. Security, please escort Mr. Taylor from the building, I said, my voice carrying across the lobby, steady and cold. He's not welcome here. Conrad's face went from purple to nearly crimson. You ungrateful. The security guard gripped his elbow. A second guard appeared from the stairwell. They flanked him, professional and firm. You'll regret this, Elise. Conrad's voice echoed in the marble lobby even as they pushed him outside. You'll regret abandoning your family. I turned back to find 70 pairs of eyes on me. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then I walked back through the glass doors to my desk like nothing happened. That evening, my boss Margaret Chen called me into her office. I expected termination, family drama affecting workplace professionalism. Instead, she slid a document across her polished desk. Creative Director. $40,000 raise. You start Monday. I stared at the contract. The words didn't make sense. I watched the entire scene this afternoon, Margaret said, leaning back in her chair. Then, I did some research. Your brother's medical situation, your parents' financial history, the trust fund they emptied. Heat crawled up my neck. I apologize for bringing that into the office. It won't happen again. Your composure under attack was remarkable. Margaret tapped the contract. Most people would have screamed back, defended themselves, made it worse. You stood there and let him destroy his own credibility. That's leadership, Elise. I walked out of her office in a daze, the unsigned contract clutched in my hands. At 2 a.m., my apartment door exploded inward. Flashlights blinded me. Shouted commands overlapped into incomprehensible noise. Rough hands dragged me from bed. Threw me face down on hardwood floor. Metal cuffs bit into my wrists. What's happening? My voice came out strangled. What did I do? A SWAT officer crouched beside me, showed me his phone screen. Text message from my number to Merrick. Timestamp 1:47 a.m. I bought a gun, I'm ending it all tonight. I didn't send that, I said, my heart hammering against my ribs. That's not from me. Someone spoofed my number. Red flag laws, ma'am, the officer said, checking my restraints. We received a 911 call from a family member stating you had a loaded weapon and were threatening immediate violence. Combined with this text message, we had to act. Mandatory psychiatric evaluation. They hauled me to my feet. My neighbors peered from cracked doors as they dragged me down the hallway in pajamas. Outside, blue and red lights painted the street. 3 police cars, an ambulance. like I was a terrorist instead of someone who'd just gotten promoted. They shoved me into the back of a squad car and I realized with perfect, horrible clarity, my parents had just weaponized the law itself. I spent 72 hours in a psychiatric ward. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Someone screaming 3 doors down. The smell of industrial bleach and desperation. They took everything at intake: phone, wallet, belt, shoelaces. The psychiatrist evaluated me 3 times. Each time, I gave him nothing but icy precision. Perfect control. Corporate armor even in hospital scrubs. When the 72nd hour arrived, they returned my belongings in a sealed plastic bag. The automatic doors slid open. Late afternoon sun hit my face, blinding after 3 days of fluorescent hell, and that's when I saw him. A man in a cheap suit, holding a manila envelope. Elise Taylor? Yes. You've been served. Petition for conservatorship of the estate. Petitioners: Conrad Taylor and Lenora Merrick Taylor. They were seeking legal control of my assets. All $2.3 million. Court date set for 3 weeks from today. I called Kaylin before I even started my car engine. Don't go home, she said, her voice sharp and urgent. Come to my office. Now. She met me in the lobby herself. The PI finished his report. She handed me a thumb drive. It's worse than we thought. I plugged the drive into her laptop and watched as files populated the screen. Bank statements, IP logs, corporate registration documents, insurance claim forms, federal identity theft, Kaylin said, spanning 2 years. Your stepmother hacked your insurance portal using your stolen social security number, changed the mailing address to a P.O. box registered to their lake house zip code. I scrolled through the evidence. Fake therapy sessions. A shell company called Apex Neurotherapy Solutions. $40,000 in fraudulent insurance payments already collected. We have everything, Kaylin said, her voice cold and satisfied. IP logs placing her at the lake house during the logins. Billing records. The shell company registration is in her maiden name. I stared at the screen. We release this now, I said. Criminal charges, public exposure, we end them. No. I looked up, startled. Kaylin leaned forward. If we release this now, they withdraw the conservatorship suit. They hide assets, they flee jurisdiction. We get a small victory, and they minimize the damage. What are you suggesting? Right now they're committed to showing up in court. They have to appear. They have to make their case. Her eyes gleamed. We need them to commit perjury. Understanding crashed over me like cold water. Let them file sworn affidavits about my instability. Let them detail their financial needs under oath. Every lie becomes federal evidence. Exactly, Kaylin said. I've already contacted the FBI. Agent Holloway is building a parallel case. But we need them to dig themselves deeper first. What do I do? Play defeated, broken. Stop posting on social media. Appear reclusive. We'll file weak responses to the conservatorship petition. Miss some deadlines. Make it look like you're overwhelmed. And when they believe they're winning, they'll get overconfident. They'll exaggerate in their affidavits. They'll document their own crimes in sworn testimony. Her smile was sharp as a blade. They're signing their own arrest warrants. They just don't know it yet. 3 weeks. I could wait 3 weeks. Then we'd burn their whole world down. 3 weeks later, I sat in Superior Court, wearing a plain, oversized gray sweater. My hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup. I looked small, vulnerable, exactly like someone who couldn't handle her own life. Across the aisle, Conrad and Lenora sat like they were attending a gala. Designer suits. Pearls. Confidence. The courtroom was packed with concerned family friends who'd shown up to watch me get declared incompetent. In the back row, Agent Holloway sat in an unremarkable gray suit. He could have been anyone, His presence was the only thing keeping my heart rate steady. Judge Alana Whitmore entered. Her expression revealed nothing as she settled behind the bench. "We're here for the matter of Taylor versus Taylor," she said. "Petition for conservatorship of the estate. Mr. Aldridge, you may call your first witness." Dr. Thorne took the stand, testified about the treatment plan. The $215,000 I'd liquidated, the boat they'd purchased instead. "What has happened to Merrick's condition since the procedure was cancelled?" Kaylin asked. "It has deteriorated significantly. He now requires ambulatory assistance. His window for treatment has likely closed. The disease will continue progressing." Conrad took the stand next. His performance was flawless, the grieving father watching his daughter spiral, voice cracking, eyes wet. "I can't let her destroy everything she built because she's not thinking clearly," he said, looking directly at Judge Whitmore. When Lenora took the stand, she was even better. "Talked about my erratic behavior. The champagne glasses I smashed. The suicidal text message. I'm terrified for her," Lenora said, voice trembling. "We just want to make sure she's safe." Judge Whitmore's expression had softened from neutral to concerned. Kaylin stood to cross-examine. She looked hesitant, shuffling her papers nervously. She dropped a pen. "Mrs. Taylor," Kaylin started, her voice soft and unsure. "You mentioned you're terrified for Elise?" "Petrified?" Lenora corrected, sensing weakness. She smiled. Kaylin fumbled with her notes. "And these expenses? The boat? You felt they were necessary medical costs?" "Absolutely. Therapy takes many forms." Lenora exchanged a triumphant look with Conrad. They thought they'd won. Kaylin closed the file folder. The nervous hunch vanished from her shoulders. Her posture straightened. When she looked up, the hesitation was gone. "Thank you for confirming that under oath, Mrs. Taylor." Kaylin's voice was suddenly clear, commanding the entire room. She turned to the judge. "Your Honor, I move to dismiss this petition immediately." Confusion rippled through the courtroom. "The funds my client's parents claim to be protecting are actually proceeds of federal crimes," Kaylin said calmly. "This court cannot grant conservatorship over assets obtained through fraud." Judge Whitmore's eyebrows rose. "Explain." "May I present evidence?" "Proceed." Kaylin opened her laptop. A projection screen descended. IP logs appeared. "These are login records from Miss Taylor's health insurance portal. Note the timestamps and locations." She highlighted several entries. Login from the Lakehouse IP address. Device registered to Lenora Taylor. Mailing address changed to a post office box. Lenora's face drained of color. The next slide showed corporate registration documents. Apex Neurotherapy Solutions, a shell company registered under Lenora Taylor's maiden name. This entity submitted $40,000 in fraudulent insurance claims over 24 months for therapy sessions Miss Taylor never attended. Conrad gripped the armrest of his chair. His knuckles went white. Bank statements. The screen filled with highlighted deposits. Insurance reimbursements deposited directly into accounts linked to the lake house. Federal wire fraud. Identity theft. Insurance fraud. "The real threat to assets isn't from Miss Taylor," Kaylin said. "It's from her parents." She turned toward the back of the courtroom. "Agent Holloway?" The man in the gray suit stood, badge glinting as he held it up. 3 more agents entered through the rear doors. Conrad and Lenora realized too late. Their entire conservatorship petition was bait. Every sworn statement they filed, every lie they told under oath, it was all evidence now. "Petition denied with prejudice," Judge Whitmore said, her voice cold. Agent Holloway, approach the bench. The judge reviewed the arrest warrant. Nodded. "Conrad Taylor. Lenora Taylor. You're under arrest for federal wire fraud, identity theft, and insurance fraud." The courtroom erupted. Agents moved toward the plaintiff's table. Handcuffs clicked around Conrad's wrists. Around Lenora's. You can't do this, Lenora hissed. We're the victims here. You have the right to remain silent, Agent Holloway began. 20 years. Maximum federal prison. I sat perfectly still at the defendant's table. No triumph. No vindication. Just bone-deep exhaustion and the hollow satisfaction of watching a trap snap shut. 1 month later, I drove past the lake house. An orange eviction notice screamed from the front door. Federal seizure pending criminal restitution. Lenora's gaudy furniture sat piled on the curb in the rain. Near the street, boat accessories waited for tomorrow's trash pickup. The speedboat had been repossessed 2 weeks ago, but pieces remained: waterlogged cushions, tarnished chrome fixtures, the custom life preserver with Merrick clay crew embroidered in gold thread, their greed dissolving in the rain. I parked by the lake where the dock extended into dark water. The spare key sat in my glove compartment where it had lived for 3 years, physical proof of a promise I'd made in a hospital room. Take care of the boys. I tried. They destroyed me for trying. The key was heavier than it should have been as I walked to the water's edge. I threw it. The key spun once, catching light, then disappeared into the water with barely a splash. Ripples spread outward in perfect circles, then faded to nothing. Promise released. Obligation dissolved. 3 months after the trial, I stood in my new apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Everything was clean lines and empty space. Photos of Dr. Thorne and colleagues from the agency lined one shelf. No family portraits, no lake house memories. My second promotion had come through the week before. The campaign I pitched was launching next month. Industry recognition. Corner office. Actual respect. That morning, a junior colleague had knocked on my office door. Family trouble, she'd said. Parents demanding money. Guilt eating her alive. I shared my story. Not for sympathy. As evidence that survival is possible. Love doesn't require self-destruction, I told her. You can care about someone from a safe distance. She cried, then thanked me. Purpose found in supporting, not fixing. My phone buzzed that evening. Can we meet? I need to talk to you. Please, Elise. I already knew who it was. I sipped my wine. Considered the request for 30 seconds. My response was simple. I wish you well. I'm not available. I blocked the number. Returned to my journal. No guilt rose in my chest. No second guessing. No voice whispering that I was abandoning family. Complete peace. I closed the journal and stood at the railing. The city pulsed below, alive with possibility. My life expanding instead of contracting. Genuine contentment settled over me like a blanket. I'm not looking back anymore. Only forward. Here's what I learned through all of this. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by respect, by honesty, by people who protect you instead of using you. Some people will weaponize your love. They'll take your kindness and mistake it for weakness. They'll drain you dry and call it loyalty. And when you finally set boundaries, they'll call you selfish, ungrateful, cold. Let them. Because protecting yourself isn't betrayal. Walking away from toxicity isn't abandonment. And choosing your own well-being over someone else's manipulation isn't cruelty. It's survival. My mother made me promise to take care of my brothers. And I tried. I gave everything I had, but she never asked me to destroy myself in the process. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is save yourself. Sometimes justice isn't immediate, it's patient, strategic, and absolutely devastating when it finally arrives. And sometimes the people who hurt you the most will hand you the evidence you need to stop them. You just have to be strong enough to use it. The journal lies open on the table behind me. Last line visible in lamplight. Day 1 of my actual life.